Don, welcome to the Real Talk in person.
It's great to be here.
Finally, after all these years, we've been discussing virtually, seeing each other at the trade shows. I mean, I think last time we actually had a recording was in Electronica last year.
Yeah, I think that was the last time we were together
to
do any kind of recording. I think we've crossed paths maybe in airports somewhere.
Exactly. And that was when the career changed, and you're at Waldom. Now you're leading the charge as the CEO of, and we can see all the changes that you've done. You know, if you follow, Don has become, I think, a celebrity on LinkedIn with all the changes, and Waldom bringing the brand up, and I can see not just between the brand, the branding, the videos, the talent, and really taking to the next level. So how has that all change been happening this last year for you?
Well, it's all part of the strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, and I think I said it before when we were at Electronica, the model is misunderstood. And so that's what I've been doing, is trying to go out and present the model, remind everybody that we're not a distributor, we're a master distributor. We're the only model that is like this. And so the strategy was, hey, take advantage of it, educate the world, the supply chain on what we do and the value that we can add both to a distributor or for a supplier. And then we needed to go in and say, all right, how can we add more value? And that's signing lines, which I think I've signed 18 contracts. So we're averaging a little more than one a month since I've been here. So great momentum there. And I'll say the most exciting part is the talent that we've added to the team. So we've made announcements all over the world, but here in the Americas, I think we've added 5 new people that we've announced in the past 2 months.
Yep.
And we've got a few more that, knock on wood, we'll be announcing very, very soon in order to add to the team. So again, it's all part of the strategy of where we're going to build this, the value prop on this business so that we're more valuable to distributors and more valuable to suppliers.
Yeah, because as we all know, this last couple of years, I mean, there's evolvements, and I would say unprecedented, but there's also evolvements in the industry. It's not unprecedented because every year should be unprecedented because it's evolving. But again, we are in a kind of industry slowdown, a kind of fiscal recession this year. And as you come in, it's like, you know what? We know the future of the industry. We know what's going on. So we're kind of double down when people start pulling things back. We're going to invest now because we see the next year, 2, 3, 4 years where this growth is going to be. And that mindset and strategy with your knowledge and experience in the industry, really saying, hey, we got this. There's a great talent out there. Surrounding yourself with good talent from sales, marketing, technology, and the partnerships that you're doing. That's really what it takes. Again, there has to be some risk. And I think that's the thing is you are taking some risk, but calculated risk for the growth that you're looking for and the milestone objectives you're trying to get to.
Yeah, but it's pretty easy to see. So the risks do not feel like they're that big a risk for us. If you look at it, our model is built on having a breadth of inventory that most distributors cannot afford to have with a particular supplier. Now, part of that is we manage a lot of excess inventory, slow moving in excess, not old inventory, not end of life inventory, and we bring that back in and we make it available to all the distributors, where in the past a lot of that ended up in landfills. Yep. So, I look at it. I've got a mission right now different than most of the companies where everybody's trying to reduce their inventory. I've got goals set in order for the inventory to increase. My inventory, I think when we talked at Electronica, I probably had less than 350 million worth of inventory. That number yesterday was 468 million. So it's up pretty dramatically. But again, it's the value prop to the distributors. I'm of no value if I've got a few part numbers. I need a lot of part numbers in order to make sure that when the distributors need product and they can't wait a lead time, then they'll come to me.
Yeah, and I can see from your trips, especially going international, not just in Europe, but also in Asia, getting more partners and more other distributors and partners to really expose have the visibility of the inventory that you are stocking and showing, because there is, usage, we're global economy. You can't just focus in the States or in Europe or North, South America. We're everywhere, and especially Asia is heavily impacted. There's a lot of volume there. So I can see that's really, in the last year, that's been an emphasis for you.
Yeah, and it's something, this is the newest part of the business. We did open up there, I'll say, a few years before COVID, and then COVID slowed it all down. We're going back now. I've got 3 sales offices, Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Singapore. But we've started hiring additional people there. Yeah. Belief is that we've got in the budget to bring 10 more people on just in China. And as we bring those on, then obviously it's a broader reach because there are a lot of distributors, a lot of very good distributors, probably bigger than most of us understood in that part of the world. And again, this value prop, I'll say distributors in Asia traditionally hold or turn the inventory a little faster than they do in some other parts of the world. So our model, I think, even adds, a little more value there.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because the experience you've had, especially in your past careers, was being president of TTIs of Americas and going through that and see that growth areas, and then kind of changing the model, going to a different, but this model is still in the distribution world, but there's a niche that there's model and there's value proposition that has really exponential growth that's coming through. And that's why I'm saying through this change of technology, and you guys see, so as you've been visiting all these countries, all these other distributors, other partners that you're working with, is technology a forefront that everybody's talking about through the APIs or sharing information? What do you see it's going on? And what's also your goals and visions of this for the future?
Well, and obviously technology is where that's part of what empowers the Waldom model.
Okay.
I mean, because basically, we're not a large organization. It's a couple $100 million in revenue and a couple hundred people. But if you go look at it, a lot of how we have to deliver the information and to the distributors is through technology. So whether it's an EDI connection or an API connection, the faster we can get the information, and it needs to be real-time information, obviously that is a big part of our model. When it comes to how we operate our business, it's even more important. The data that this industry generates that for years has not really been used, now that data is being used every day. We use it in order to understand the sellability of products as it comes back in, understand which region of the world where that product is used. We were just talking about prior to us sitting down for this podcast, I've got an avatar now to where I can speak to my team in whatever language that is their native tongue, and I can deliver a message, and it's much, much easier for my team to understand the strategy and where we're going. Not to mention, we've started using the avatars a little bit on the external. I was in meetings throughout China, and it's changed since pre-COVID to where English-speaking people in a lot of those meetings, and my Mandarin is not good at all.
You're like, shit, ni hao. You're like,
it's non-existent. So for me, we're augmenting part of the presentations to where my avatar can come in and help us to deliver the message. Now, if you look at it, the industry itself, I'll say the biggest change, and I was in and out of China, throughout my career, and then COVID shut it all down. So I've been back 2-3 times now. And I'll say the biggest difference that I've seen is the technology that the Chinese companies have invested in the way they run their operations. I was there, and I actually ran global operations for TTI, and I was trying to help build a warehouse in Asia, and I could not get any of the technology very easily without importing it myself. And today, currently I've gone into a Chinese distributor who had no technology 5 years ago to the most automated warehouse I've ever seen. They had 12 people in at least 300,000 square foot warehouse. That was it. That's how many they needed. Robots were running everything else. So they've made tremendous investments. So the technology in that piece of it, and where's AI going to take us? I mean, I look at how we're using it in order to help, I'll say, go collect data or analyze data, get it in a format that we can do something with it to make decisions on.
Yeah, I mean, that forefront, just like we shared that, I experienced the same thing, and Asia has transitioned for the last 20, 30 years tremendously. And even post-pandemic, I think that it's the culture and discipline of moving forward and building. We also have a technology here. A lot of it's innovated by the U.S. and a lot of innovation is done there, and they're taking it and they can integrate it because, again, they don't have a very, I would say, they're a new marketplace. We have a lot of more, I would say, at this point, you talked about, we have a lot more older style points. We have a lot more people involved. It's kind of antiquated in the ways that we are doing a lot of things, but there's harder to change when you're an existing older economy than a new economy. And that's a difference. When a new emerging market happens, they can make changes much quicker and shift much faster. And that's one thing that has, I think, China or Asia is leading in that charge, but as well as it's showing that, oh, wow, the proof of concept, what we can do and what we can do here. And even though we have the brains and the AI that come back to how we're sharing this is creating our AI avatars, communication is key.
Yeah.
And what we have here with, I think the inception of last year was ChatGPT was released, I think, last November of 2022. It just changed the world. And we're 1 year into that kind of AI revolution. But understanding it's not AI is kind of generic in that point, but it's just a data model, creating a complex algorithm to solve and make things faster. So as we're implementing, and our companies are supplying the hardware to the infrastructure that's powering these systems. And that's one thing I think that sometimes as a traditional salesperson in the fields, we don't realize, like, we are supplying the foundation for these systems to operate. We are in a very dynamic and future industry that we're going to make a significant difference. And that's one thing when you're talking to your staff and people about the technology and AI, do they ever come back to say, oh, wow, we sold this to this company who's making X, or this is making Y. They're making the difference of tools that we're using.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different for us. And we only sell to distributors. So, we have to sort of work through the distributors who we sell to. So tying it back to how we're helping change the world. And to your point, when I got into this industry back a long time ago, it was considered a high-tech industry. Mm-hmm. It lost some of that. It got to a point that, hey, it was not sexy. Software companies came up, the Facebooks, the Googles, and everybody, and that's where everybody wanted to go to work. All of a sudden, people are starting to say, wait a second, we've got an influence in this. Mm-hmm. I look back at some of the companies that I've visited, throughout my career, and what they are today compared to what they were when I visited them. And if it's a Tesla or a SpaceX or, right down the line, those are big names today that in the beginning, those weren't big companies. They were, high-risk companies to go look at, but the technology and where they've taken us. So trying to get that and trying to make sure that the people who are in the industry or the ones we're trying to get to come to work in the industry understand that. Yeah. Some of the, I'll say, the things that we touch or that we're involved with. And that's an everyday deal, because every day it's changing. And the next greatest thing, we're probably interfacing somewhere already, and we don't know because it's not the next big thing yet.
Yeah. Exactly. So by talking about technology and the insights that you guys collect this data, I mean, everybody's concerned as someone who has so much experience and knowledge and connections, like, what is going on and what happened in 2023? What have you seen from the data from, your side? Where are we going? And what's your, I would say not prediction. What are your optimism like going into Q1, Q2 next year? Is there a certain rebound, or is there certain of the inventory's depletion? Because that's a big thing right now, excess inventory. And this is an area you play in that's actually to your advantage, which is a great advantage. But what, from your knowledge, is saying, that cyclical shift? So the question is this: what happened in 2023? How we hit the bottom, and do you think that right now we're on a slow growth pace back up for the usage?
Yeah, and what happened? What got us here? Obviously, we had an economy and our industry, we couldn't keep up. So what everybody did, everybody adjusted all the way from the end user through the distributors, through the suppliers, and all of us. And I wish I could sit here today and say, hey, we learned some valuable lessons through that process, but we didn't. We ended up that there was an overbuying that occurred. I believe we lost track of how much inventory was in the supply chain. Mm-hmm. We couldn't see it. At the end, customers were holding more inventory, record inventories. You could see it in some companies who were publicly held. Mm-hmm. The distributors had record inventories. They still have record inventories, and the suppliers had record inventories. And there was an expectation that, okay, this thing was going to keep going. And we all know the demands do not last forever. There's a lot of things out of our control, geopolitical things that occurred. There's trying to slow down some economies and inflation that it obviously is going to...
The fiscal side.
That's it. And those are things that there's nothing we can do about. But we were late to start adjusting the algorithms behind all of our systems to tell us what to buy. And when all the smoke cleared, there's some parts that we don't talk in weeks of inventory anymore. We're talking in years. Yeah. And we're seeing that we're not in the semiconductor world in a big way. We are in the IP&E, the interconnect, passive, and electromechanical. Interconnect seems to be correcting.
Okay.
So that piece of it, if you look at the inventory aspect of it, it looks like at the end customer, it looks like at the distributors, we're seeing it when you look at month over month, quarter over quarter, those numbers are getting more back into line. The passive side of it, still not getting better. So if you look at it, there was a lot of buildup, a lot of products that did not get put into end products. That is still, we're not seeing the signs. Electromechanical probably never got as bad. So if you look at power supplies, I think they were the last to come out of the supply chain constraints. And I do believe that they were able to curtail the manufacturing and the purchasing to keep that inventory better in line. It's still some excess there. My predictions are, I talked to an analyst 2 days ago, and I'm looking at it, and I'm more of a leading indicator since I sell to distributors. Distributors have stripped out safety stock. They brought the lead times back into reality where they had padded those. They've taken some of the processing or the fears of that shipments were going to get hung up in customs, trying to move it from one part of the world to another. All that's been brought back to today, which created a big vacuum where there was not as big of demand, and everybody was trying to work it out of inventory. I believe that the first half of 2024 is still going to be, I don't think it's going to get much worse. I look at my numbers, and what I've been shipping on a global basis has actually been flat for 5 months now. Same number almost every month we have shipped. And I do not have a big scheduled business. Mine's typically demands that come in on a regular. So I say that we've sort of been at the bottom. I think in the Americas, I think we've been there. I think I'm seeing signs to where it's getting slightly better. Europe is not getting better. Europe seems held on longer, is getting worse. I have seen signs for the past 2 months that Asia and China in particular, my year-over-year comparisons have gone positive.
Okay.
So I'm looking at it right now. I'm trying to finish up a forecast for next year. I do believe I will have growth. Organically, it will be low single digits. My overall growth will be double digits, but it's because we've signed
so many more
so
product
many,
lines.
So many new lines.
Yeah, but overall, I mean that's a scenario. I mean that I've seen some like Dale Ford put out an analyst of what's going on, and it's similar in line. But I see as well. We've been seeing in the last quarter a lot more RFQs and inquiries or pull-ins actually from Asia. They're coming in, they're pulling in, and some of the canceled orders, they're actually like, hey, we want to reorder that again. And you can see some of light at the end of the tunnel, some spikes in some industries. Not all industries are recovering. And that's one thing going to the industry standpoint. Where do you see in the next, because again, the big talks, AI, EV, all that. But where do you see in the other verticals of some growth? That's a good double-digit growth in the next year.
Well, if you look at it, again, I'm getting it through the distributors, through what my industry contacts of what I'm seeing. Aerospace and defense, as bad as I hate to say it, with what's going on throughout the world, that part of the market or that market itself is very robust. You've got the EV and the EV infrastructure, and again, I think most of where I look at it is the infrastructure piece of it. That has not really slowed down. That is continuing to become bigger and bigger piece of it. I have gotten feedback that the smartphone, and I'm talking more specifically in Asia, there has been a recovery to some degree. It's not back to where it was, but that seems to be getting healthier. And I think that, in the whole scheme of things, a lot of distributors may not sell into that space, but if the direct suppliers are not selling to that space, that puts more inventory in that's available out there in order to go and creates a surplus of the inventory on that side. So I look at those spaces. Medical, I've heard some alarming news to where it's been growing at a very good rate. And recently, there's been a lot of talk that the medical is finally slowing down. Which surprised me just a little bit. Now, industrial, if you look at distribution across the world, that is the largest number of customers that the distributors deal with. That was on a 2 or 3 year tear to where, I'll say everything being connected in the factories or every product in the industrial space had to be connected through the web. That one has slowed down. I have not seen the recovery yet in that piece of it. And I can't tell, that may be an inventory issue there, where the end customers as well as distributors still have quite a bit of inventory.
Yeah, because I echo everything you said, because all those industries have growth, and I think within some of them have different verticals, because I think it's also the connectivity now. Of course, 5G was talks for about 10 years. Finally, the industries have it, because what that 5G did was really launch IoT to the next level. Mm-hmm. That connectivity of transferring data, having analytics. Even yoga mats today have some type of microcontroller. To tell you, we had from the watches now to everything has a data set, a data point, and a microcontroller and a sensor, and some type of RF device that connects to Wi-Fi or to a Wi-Fi to a cloud. Yep. So that connectivity, I think, in every industry is huge through infrastructure, smart homes, smart buildings, smart transportation, and there is a large, and that everything is basically fed from hardware. Mm-hmm. Yeah, software operates, I said, the sexy side. The hardware, it still is the basis of that. And how do you see, from your side, everything from engineering is bringing, the hardware to make it sexy again, but it is actually so, because today's everything that's powered, semiconductors are the sexy part. Everything's talking about, because that was in the chip shortage, or in the media chip shortage, we're missing chips, but it wasn't actually all chips. There was a lot of other materials, but the semiconductors got the highlight that really brought our industry to light of what we do in the supply chain, either in distribution or in manufacturing, of really to the spaces. And I can see today there's a lot more interest in supply chain. Yeah. Right. So, do you see that yourself? Like, everybody's interested. So when I used to sell, what do you do? I'm in the electronics industry. What do you do? We're an electronic component distributor. Do you sell computers? Do you sell? That's the first thing. Now, it's kind of related to, we sell those, those chips. We're part of that supply chain, and we sell large volumes to manufacturers who make all the gadgets. So that's what's happening to the pandemic. You're the reason that I'm like, so it but it highlights the talent. Right. So that's when I get to round that up is, how do you see the talent coming in, or the people? Of course, you have new talent you're bringing into to Waldom, but also the new generation coming into this.
Well, and I appreciate the visibility that the semiconductor industry put on our supply chain, because now my family actually understands, after 40 years, sort of what I do. Where this product goes, where it ends up. Exactly. Yeah, because that's the way I described it. Yeah. Exactly. Well, you heard about the semiconductor stuff that's making it to where they can't deliver new cars. And I said, well, there's a lot of other components, a lot more. That's what I sell, that are going into those that, I also have constraints on those. So I welcome that coming along. I think it got visibility to that younger generation. I think our industry is attempting to try to go out and educate, I'll say, that generation that's coming out of universities and coming into the workforce now, that, hey, this industry's got some nice things to offer. Yep. And we use intern programs to where we actually bring in, the last class we brought in was 12 interns that we brought in all aspects of our business. That seems to be where a lot of our new talent is coming from. We bring them in as interns. They work, a quarter with us. They go back to school. They come back again for another assignment. And then we get them into the industry. But we're giving them meaty assignments to where we bring them into the best projects that we've got, instead of giving them administrative work to do. And it gets them excited where they understand it. They learn the industry. And they probably understand the importance of our industry to the world better than we do, because they see it from a different angle. Correct. We're sort of blinded. Yeah. We've lived it every day.
Yeah. I know. That goes to that point is, have you played with ChatGPT or Bard? Have you played with those AI models?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As I said, what have you found? As much as you play with it, what is some things that in your life or daily, it's making things a little bit easier for you to, save time? And what are some of the fun things that you've done with it?
Well, I got to look at it, whether it's fun or not. In the beginning, you end up using it just for a simple message where you've got 2 or 3 and you're under a time constraint, and you throw in saying, hey, I need to send an email to
X to Y.
X with these 3 main points. And it goes and builds it into something that's a little more, I'll say, comprehensive.
Constructive and comprehensive,
That's it. And it sounds, and you can't turn it loose. Obviously, it's developed quite a bit. I'll tell you where we really started using it in the beginning. With a lot of these postings we were doing for jobs, we would go in and have it write the job description with just a few bullets to where it filled it out with a lot of the other things that were expected or required.
Yes.
And so it did a lot of the work for us, and then we brought it down.
Yeah.
You know, we've used it when it comes to strategies. Now we do have access. ChatGPT is really open to the public, so you have to be careful what you put out there.
Correct.
But within Bing, within the Office suite, we've got, let's call it our own internal model. So it keeps our data confidential, so we can dump in, and we're actually on a quest now to get all of our data, if it comes to our strategies, our plans, just to get the files that they're available so that the AI can go out and actually access it, and I can go back in and say, hey, over the years, what is our strategy? How's it evolved as it relates to our slow moving in excess or our green stock.
Yeah.
And it can go pull from presentations that I did day one and that I did last week, as well as our Power BI and the data that's in there, and it pulls it all in, but it's not open to the outside world.
Yeah, you're APIing it. We do a similar thing. You can API it to bring it into your data model that doesn't take it back.
That's it.
It's one way. It's a one way, but you use its compute to solve those algorithms to normalize that data. Because the data analysis tool for everybody who is not a great Excel or pivot table or analysis tool, as you said, I can take my last year or 2 year forecast, inventory levels, and I can dump in something, say, I want this result. Show me the comparison of these manufacturers, these lines, our budget. And it does it within seconds or even minutes. And you're like, that would have took me a day, 2 days to get deep down. And it's the time saving. And again, it's the human and the machine. As we say, it's like you have to still audit it. Doesn't matter if it writes for you. You still have to make sure, because there are some mistakes. And sometimes you want it to, this doesn't sound like me. This is not what I want to write back. I want to edit, but it takes your ideas. And I think for brainstorming, ideas and research and normalizing something, it's extremely powerful.
Absolutely. Well, if you look at it, I use it a lot. That if there's there's an interesting white paper or an article or something. Hey, can you summarize this quickly for me? I don't
dumb it down a little bit.
Bring it into me and tell me the key points. So I use it, and again, and then when it summarizes it, I may go back and say, wait a second, this is too powerful. Now I'll go spend the time in order to go through the full white paper. But it's the amount of time it saves just in trying to get through a lot of, I'm going to say, data, but it's really different articles that I've saved or things like that. I'm using it to summarize in order to make sure I can get through it or get to it in a timely fashion.
On your end, do you play with Bard or GPT? Have you played with Bard too?
I haven't played with Bard.
Okay.
GPT and then the Bing Chat.
Bing Chat. Yeah, Chat, that's part of the same model.
Yeah, it's still Chat GPT. Yeah. So using it. Now, obviously, as I said, we've got a plan together that's our own ecosystem to where it's walled off. Now we'll go out to the outside world and pull in from sources on the internet to bring it into our environment. But anything we deem confidential, it's not putting it out there.
Yeah,
not
of course.
Not that our strategy is.
You're not putting rocket ships to the moon. No, but still, it's the IP that you want to make sure, because again, I know Microsoft is on their way for Copilot, Enterprise Copilot, not just the Bing. Yeah. The Enterprise Copilot will change, because within your own tech stack of your SharePoint, your OneDrives, your emails, your chats, you can actually have built in your own model of searching and looking at data, which is, we all know that this is, oh wow, I can organize myself and hey, check all my emails, look at all these things came in, and you can search for 7 data points and separate objectives, which is extremely fascinating. So from that aspect, is it like a directive to everybody to get used to these tools? I mean, internally of how to use them, operate them as your team? Do you lead by that to say that this is the future and everybody should be practicing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, because it's where it's going.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, with I'll say the controversy or the publicity that it's receiving today, and there should be concern. I mean, I get that, but if it's used correctly, the productivity enhancements are unbelievable. I mean, just like you said, the example you gave, it would have taken you a full day, and it did it in less than a minute.
Yes.
And think about how many times that occurs. Yeah. I mean, I've got a board meeting on Thursday. Now, I haven't used it for that board meeting, but I could have. I could have used, I write an executive summary that pulls from my financials that I could have gone in and used that
data points that it could have helped
it.
and inserted it, because again, it's not a complex thing, because you have your own writing and pitch and you just wanted to articulate some things. And that's the thing, is it save time, because at the end of the day, I think these tools are going to maximize our time savings so we can focus on driving value to impact to drive revenue at the end of the day, drive revenue, right?
That's it.
And that reduce the amount of error and human capital. Because again, a lot of back office jobs, admin jobs will be replaced in the future with these tools, because it can close the loop, it can do it faster, and things that process. That's why I say is all businesses that are, facing that, you have to focus on driving value and impact in every single way. And you, as the leader, it's like, hey, I have to lead by example and show what the value can bring to me. Is like, hey, I've done personally, I remember the PowerPoint presentation. I knew what I wanted to write. I had some research. I just threw it in there. It gave me 6 slides. Yeah, it was black and white. And then I just had some marketing. They beautified it. And I'm like, and I made some edits. I'm like, that took me less than 30 minutes. I could have sat there for 3 hours doing this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually better than I thought I could articulate it. And it's also communication. And it can explain sometimes the way we perceive our writing and our words and over text is someone decodes and it's that differently than we do. So I think it helps communicate better. It helps us articulate, just like you're talking about languages. It can translate to languages. Absolutely. Because communication in anything in your life, business, personal, marriage, is key, is number one. So if we can't do that, and we can have a tool that can improve that, at the end of the day, the sky is the limit.
Absolutely. Well, internally, we've got probably 25 different nationalities that work within Waldom, and that's a pretty big, I'll say, group, a diverse group for a couple hundred people who work in the business. But I've noticed that I've got a lot of people where English is not their first language. Mm-hmm. They're using AI in order to help make their communication much more. So, and I think that's a wonderful use of it. And I salute them for going out and trying to make sure that they're getting their point across. I've got a team in China, and with their English is good, obviously much better than my Mandarin, but they come in, but they sometimes they
lost in translation does happen.
That's it, and now they're able to go back in, and of course with me, they're fascinated that now I'm using an avatar in order to deliver, at least my avatar delivering a message in their language, and they're grasping it so much better, and they appreciate that we're going to that level to try to communicate in their native tongue.
And that's the respect, because people are, I think in human nature, psychologically, you're empowered. If someone's trying to, to your local language, make an effort, like, they're making an effort and they're saying this, and it empowers me, like, what am I doing? I got to do this too. And that's leadership. At the end of the day, is no matter what people say, oh, it's a shortcut. I mean, these tools help at every single facet of a 360 degree to help us, again, communicate better, save time. At the end of the day, drive impact, because we're leading teams. We want to make sure we can keep the jobs, enrich their lives, enrich their companies, and everybody at that point, and live for a better purpose, right? What is our objective and what is our purpose? So within now coming to the start of finalize this with Waldom, what is the mission and vision of Waldom? Well, have you changed it from the beginning? When you started?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it has.
Okay.
I talk about the value prop of us, ultimately, if I had to summarize what Waldom does, I mean, we only sell to distributors, but our whole mission is we try to make product easily available to distributors to help them sell more to the end customers, to help them enhance their customer experience. Now, where it's changed a little bit, as we've looked into a good portion of our model and this green stock or this stock recovery program, you've heard us refer to it in the past. What we found out, and we've consulted with people in the sustainability part of the business, which has got a lot of visibility all over the world, that we found that piece of it, our model actually, it qualifies for carbon credits. Yep. All right, and so we didn't even go into this business or this model for that. But think about it: we keep many tons of electronic component waste out of the landfills. A lot of the components that we manage and we make available, we repurpose those components, and we extend the life of those components. And the people in the industry have come in and said, do you realize that you guys have been doing this for 13 years now? And how many tons have you kept out of landfills? Because when I ran distributors, a lot of the rotations, when product was deemed slow-moving in excess, suppliers would give us credit for it, but we had to destroy it and had to throw it, and it ended up in landfills. Now we're preventing that. So I'll say the whole model and that sustainability piece, you're going to see a lot more from us there. You know, that we believe we're going to at least make the world known, and we're going to share the credit with our distributor partners and our supplier partners, because we're all doing our part in order to help, albeit maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot. So I think that's where it's probably changed since we talked back at Electronica.
I mean, again, it's only been a short time, and the evolution. I'm excited. You know, talking to you every time, talking about what's going on, the changes, because we also do discovery over time, months. You know, things are changing. Traveling, meet with new partners, new suppliers, new distributors, partners. You know, look, we're all working together, and I think this industry, as much as it's going to be extraordinary multi-trillion-dollar industry in this decade, is small still, and everybody knows each other. But the only way, I think, as I look at democratizing, the only way we win is working together.
That's it. And we're better. It's going to be better for each of us, where previously maybe distributors consider, you know, another distributor a competitor, suppliers consider, you know, their like supplier a competitor. If we figure out how to all work together, then we all go forward at a much faster rate. And when it comes to the end customer, the experience they have is going to be a whole lot better.
And it's funny, as technology is actually getting us closer now, finally, because we know what it is. Well, thank you, Don, for coming in. It's been great talking to you, joining in now a new partnership with you, with Waldom, and really moving forward. And I'm excited to see the next 3 to 6 months and having a newer conversation, really where you guys are going and what's changing with the market. And again, I think we're in a very dynamic spot, because we can see the basis of what products are out there and get those insights. So thank you for sharing.
Well, I appreciate you having me in. It's always exciting to be here. I'm glad I finally made it into
you made it in the studio. Yeah, next time it's going to probably evolve and change, and see you more often, hopefully. And then, I'll probably come in and talk about the updates and the exciting things in the industry. Again, at that point is, through us, it's like, you know, yourself too, as being a thought leader in the industry, really, you know, gives inspiration to others as well too. And that's one thing, those stories being told, and you're still having fun. At the end of the day, you're having fun doing this, enjoying it, and that's all it is. If you don't have fun what you're doing it for? And I love sharing that, and I love your enthusiasm every time we talk and discuss about the industry.
Well, it's my pleasure.
All right, thanks a lot.
Great.
Thank you. And we're out. And we're live.